Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Welcome to the Adventurous Podcast. I'm your host, Deidre Perry, and these are my co-hosts. And weekly, we will be coming to you to bring you the latest information in the world of agriculture. We invite you to join us every Saturday from 10 to 10:30. Join us. Come on, take an adventure.
Welcome to another edition of Socrates, Garrett Live. Welcome again to another edition of Socrates, Garrett Live. Our show is being brought to you by Earth Blend Coffee, the finest coffee that money can buy, roasted right here in Jackson, Mississippi, an African-American owned roasting company. Imported the roaster itself all the way from Turkey, the finest roaster in the marketplace. So I want you to go to earthblendcoffee.co, that's earthblendcoffee.co, and order the coffee. I have friends in Las Vegas, Nevada, New York City, Boston that are all ordering coffee from Earth Blend Coffee right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Well, it's great to be here, and it's great to be able to get our message out all across the world. As you know, our show is being broadcast on Roku TV, on Amazon TV, it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube. We're on WeBelieveDigital.com, and We Believe Global, WeBelieve.global. And so we're all over the world. 149 different countries are sharing and participating with us tonight as we embark upon another edition of Socrates Garrett Live. Now tonight, we have a very, very special guest that's in the studios with us, and we're going to be talking about, Jackson, and we're going to be talking about the state of America and the world. The gentleman that's here with us tonight is a person that has led the city of Jackson longer than any other African American as mayor of the city, the first African American mayor of the city of Jackson, Mississippi. Renowned in his own way, and we're going to talk about, his life adventures and how he got to this station as to where he is today, and how he sees things going forward, and just what is it that we ought to look out for to make Jackson and make this country better for all involved. So welcome, Mayor Harvey Johnson Jr. It's good to have you here in the studios. I look forward to this conversation.
Well, thank you, Socrates. I appreciate the invitation, and I guess I look forward to it as well.
Well, we're going to jump right in, Mayor. You are a distinguished individual. You've held leadership positions throughout this city and throughout this state. So tell the listening audience a little bit about your background, and so that we'll know a little bit more about Mayor Harvey Johnson.
Well, I was born in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and went to high school there, went to college at Tennessee State University. Early on, got infatuated with government, really, just I saw it as a way of making a difference in people's lives. Unlike some people who may be on the other side of the aisle, I see government playing a very, very prominent role in the lives of people, particularly people who are oppressed, who are disadvantaged. So I majored in political science at Tennessee State. I have a master's in political science from the University of Cincinnati. Spent about 30 years in community development and planning. I was a National Urban Fellow assigned to an assistant secretary at the Department of Housing and Urban Development for about a year. And so my background is public service, and that's what I've been doing. I served on the State Tax Commission. We were actually the first gaming commission, the State Tax Commission was, back when gaming first started in the state. So we licensed the first 8 boats here. And then I decided really back in the mid-'70s that I was going to try to run for public office and to really try to make a difference, to get deep into this thing called government, that black box that people don't really know what's in it. They just know that taxes go in and services come out. Mm-hmm. And so I set a goal to run for office in 1985 when the form of government changed here in the city of Jackson to the mayor-council form of government. I ran for city council, and I lost that race, and I was told that whoever lost that race probably could just leave town because they never would win anything else. And so I ran for mayor in '93 and lost that race as well. And so in '97, I was fortunate enough, with the help of a lot of good folk here in the city, a lot of progressive folk and well-thinking folk, to become the first African-American mayor of the city of Jackson. And I thank you for your support over the years. And we were fortunate enough to be reelected again in 2001. We lost in 2005 and got reelected again in 2009. So I served 3 terms, which is the longest that anyone has served, not only African-American mayor, but under this form of government. Okay. And so we're very proud of that, and we think we made some difference in the lives of some people, and we're just very pleased to be here now to sort of be an observer rather than a participant. I'm on the sideline, not on the court.
Oh, you're not coaching though.
No, I'm not coaching either. I'm strictly
okay.
In the stands.
Well, Mayor, you certainly were prepared. It seemed as if you understood what you wanted to do in life, and you stayed on that straight and narrow path with your educational background to go into the field of government as you did. I also believe that you were in the Air Force.
Yes, I was. I was in the Air Force, was in the security service. I attained the rank of captain there in the Air Force, and commissioned out of ROTC. We had ROTC back in those days at Tennessee State and a lot of other HBCUs. You had to take ROTC, and then in your junior year you could opt to go into a career path. And I decided that I didn't want that until some of my friends reminded me that the draft was very active here in Mississippi at that time. And so I joined the ROTC program and became commissioned, actually in grad school as an officer.
Wow. So at Tennessee State, I believe you met your wife there, Kathy?
I did.
Tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, Kathy and I have been married going on 53 years. She's like to, right after our whatever anniversary we have, she starts counting toward the next year. So I have to make sure I put in that it's going on 53 years. I did meet her at Tennessee State. She was a freshman. I was a senior, and we've been, I guess, all over the world together. Wherever I've gone, she's been there, and she's been my helpmate and my partner, my best friend, and so we appreciate the support she's given me over the years. Little did we know back in those days that we would, one, be together that long, but two, to go to places that we've gone together. April 4th was the assassination of Dr. King, and I can remember 1968, April 4th, and I was trying to get back on campus with my date, who was Kathy at the time, and we fondly remember those times. But the campus was literally on fire, and being invaded by the National Guard, by state troopers, and it was a daunting situation, but we made it through.
And I believe that was happening at HBCUs all across the country at the same time, Mayor, because I was at Alcorn down in 1968, and I recall the same thing.
It was. We had never seen anything like that, and we had a street similar to Lynch Street coming straight through campus, Centennial Boulevard, and similar, and just like Lynch Street back in those days, it was a heavily trafficked area. It was a major thoroughfare, and it was just very, let's say, a great deal of turmoil for people getting through at that time.
Right. So, Mayor, I've heard you refer to Kathy as your secret weapon on the campaign trail. Was she very supportive of you in that effort? Did she fuel the fire for you?
Oh, yeah. No question about it. I mean, she was definitely a secret weapon. I mean, not that my wife is not a diplomat. She certainly is a diplomat, but I was the most diplomatic of the two. So she could really lay it out very clearly as to what the positions are.
I've seen her lay. I have witnessed that firsthand. So she didn't hold back at all when it came to things that she believed in and people that she believed in, for sure. Exactly. And you being her favorite guy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Mayor, look, you've been the mayor, and I recall when you had your first inauguration, I believe you brought Maynard Jackson over to speak.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about why you asked Maynard to come.
Well, Maynard actually invited himself. I mean, that's really, he said he wanted to be here, and I was really moved by that, and didn't at that time realize, or before that time, realize how important and how much of a statement was made with my election as the first African-American mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. So Maynard, being the first African-American mayor elected in Atlanta, wanted to be here. He made it a point to be here.
Wow.
And one of the things that he told me, and that I tell folk now, and that's true, that as being the first African-American mayor, you're going to face high anxiety in the white community and high expectations in the black community, and your job is to try to reconcile those two, and that's the difficulty. And you have to govern, but you have to remember that black people have been neglected and kept out of the loop for so long that they expect their guy to deliver. Once he gets on the court, they want him to deliver. At the same time, whites have been in power so long that they think that once you get on the court, they won't get the ball.
Right.
So there's a lot of anxiety in the white community, a lot of expectations in the black community, and I found that to be true throughout my 12 years in office, not just during that first time.
Are those expectations the same today?
I think so. I mean, I think that the people, African Americans in particular, want African American elected office holders to deliver for them. And it's not that easy, and because you need the resources, and some of the resources, of course, is money, but also time is a resource that people don't appreciate. And so I think that the expectations are still there. I think the anxiety is still there. I think that the type of discussions that have gone on regarding our water system and the way our state leaders are looking at helping Jackson or not helping Jackson, who are in the State House, I think that's a result of the anxiety in the white community.
Wow. Mayor, it's a tough job. How many hours a day would you think that job requires of its leader?
I mean, at least 12. But the fact of the matter is, you never punch the clock out. You're always on the clock. So if something happens at 2:00 in the morning, and you need to be there, you're there. If there's some sort of traumatic event, whatever it is that you need to be there, then you're there. And that's not to even account for the community meetings you need to have and the places you need to go that people expect you to be there. One of the expectations is that, we want you to be there. We want you to be at our church. We want you to be at our family reunion. We want you to be wherever it is that we think that it'd be appropriate representation for the mayor to be.
Wow, and as the first African-American mayor, I imagine you had to attend a lot of family reunions and barbecues.
I attended my share in community meetings. We made it a point to have a number of community meetings. We call them ward meetings. We met once a month in every ward.
Wow.
And we did that probably for 10 out of the 12 years. We started in my first term.
Okay.
And so that was another way of just trying to reach out to people, because the fact of the matter is you can't be everywhere people want you to be. And so you try to make yourself available as best you can.
Right. What would you consider, and we're going to get into the city as of today, but it's important that our listeners understand, how we got here and who brought us here. I had the opportunity to have John Peoples on this show, and it was just remarkable the kind of things that he went through as the president of Jackson State University during that turmoil, that period of time. It was amazing how he had to navigate and keep the students safe and lead the university and try to keep people of ill will from harming students and faculty. And so it's critically important that our listeners all over the world understand that we just didn't show up here today. We're standing on the shoulders of those that have come before us, but we really don't understand what that road was like. So, I want you to tell us, Mayor, a little bit about what is it that was your crowning event, the thing that you're most proud of, and the thing that gave you the greatest pause.
Well, I guess I can point to the convention center as being one of those things that I'm proud of. That's tangible, but there's some intangible things too, and the most intangible that I can think of is our Equal Business Opportunity Program, because I wanted to, and I talked about it wherever I went to during my campaigns, to have a strong black business class. And people would pull me over to the side and say, well, you can't say that in the white community. I said, why not? I mean, we need a strong black business class is good for the city. It's good for everybody, whoever resides here. So I'm pleased with that. I'm pleased that we were able to, the first lawsuit that I had when I got into office was a lawsuit challenging our, at that time, our affirmative action program, and the federal courts threw it out, and we had to start in 1998 to build a program that was not necessarily preferential, but that leveled the playing field for African American and women-owned and businesses owned by people of color. And we got that in place, and it survived the test of time, and so I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with that. what gives you pause, or what gave me pause, was just having a relationship with the white business community. I mean, I think that it was a very trying time. Although the more you tried to work it out, sometimes the further you got behind. Crime, actually, the white business community is concerned about crime and about infrastructure, about all those things that everybody else is concerned about. They have the resources, though, to put a dent in some of those things, particularly when it came to studying them and coming up with plans and that kind of thing. And one of the things that gave me pause, and is, as you may have remembered, the Metropolitan Crime Commission, which was a commission of business, made up of business people primarily, who, quite frankly, were looking out at after the well-being of the city, making sure that all citizens are safe and that businesses didn't leave the city. But in my mind, at one point, they got over into governance. They wanted to tell me who the police chief could be, so we had to part ways on that.
Yeah.
It was it gave me pause in terms of just trying to deal with that kind of challenge, because there was no protocol for me to go about it. I didn't know whether that was the kind of relationship they had with other mayors or not. I just knew it didn't feel right for me to have that kind of relationship with them. And so we parted friends, but we did part on that note.
Well, Mayor, I think, as I recall, you were in a lot of different scrimmages with the white business community. The 1% sales tax,
yes,
commission,
yeah.
Not the tax itself, but the commission. You were opposed to that commission.
I was, and I am.
You still are?
And I didn't, I mean, for those who don't know, the sales tax commission, and it came about through a lot of, I guess, negotiations, compromises, whatever you want to say, in the legislature, that shouldn't have been there in the first place, in my estimation. But the way the bill got out of the legislature was that there was a commission that would not necessarily oversee the money, but had to approve all the plans, which is, to me, is tantamount to the same thing. And so, no, I was against that, and let people know that I couldn't support that. And it really rubbed me the wrong way that that commission was composed of 10 individuals, one appointed by the governor, one appointed by the lieutenant governor, one appointed by the speaker, 3 appointed by the mayor, and 4 appointed by the Chamber of Commerce. And so we had a business organization having more say-so in how public money that was collected and was to be spent in the city of Jackson than the citizens of Jackson's representatives. And that just rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't think it was right then. I don't think it's right now. And I think we see these kinds of situations being played over and over again. And so our legislative delegation do the best they can. But I don't think that they should be put in those kinds of positions to have to make those kind of choices in order to get the legislation through that's needed for the citizens. Yeah,
it's interesting that there are different ways that communities can regain power once they've lost it at the elections. I was struck by the legislation that was being offered for the Capitol Police to be able to write tickets and for misdemeanors, etc., and the fines would be collected in an entire different county than Hinds County.
Yeah.
I thought that was odd.
Well, it is odd, and I think that, for us to have the airport takeover, of course, needless to say, is another oddity. Yes, it's a regional airport, but there's no reason that the city of Jackson cannot run it. It's actually in the city of Jackson. like a lot of people don't know, it's in Rankin County, but the area that the airport is located in is an incorporated area of the city of Jackson. Right. And so that's another example. We have a special tax being collected within a capital area zone. But the contracts that come out of that tax collection is being overseen with a state agency and not the city of Jackson. And I guess I've just been on a tear here lately because the lieutenant governor, I guess it's common knowledge now, said that he didn't see anything being done after Cain Ditto's administration in terms of infrastructure. And of course, Cain was the last white mayor, and I took exception to that since we did about $200 million worth of infrastructure development. But that kind of comment to me indicated where his head was when it came to black leadership, and I think that's the problem, that there's been a reluctance to accept black leadership. I know in this area, in this state, and probably to some extent in other areas as well.
Wow. Mayor, you said one of the crowning events besides the EBO plan was the convention center.
Yeah.
How did it come about, and why is it an event that you're proud of?
Well, because it didn't happen overnight. When I came into office, we had, I heard that we had about $15 million for a telecommunications conference center. And again, some of the business community wanted to put it on Lakeland Drive, or some wanted to put it on I-220. But I saw it as an opportunity for us to develop downtown, and $15 million would be a very good start in terms of coming up with a meeting center, because the idea was a telecommunications and conference and training center that would be high tech, that wouldn't be as big as a convention center, but would be available for meetings. It really was ahead of its time, particularly during this time now where we have all of these Zoom meetings and technology being used to facilitate meetings. So the first fight was to get that $15 million spent downtown. We looked at the same time, we were looking at the King Edward Hotel, trying to append it to the King Edward Hotel, which would kill two birds with one stone. That fell through, and we finally got the location of where it is now, next to the convention center. So the next move was to get a convention center, and that required the citizens of Jackson voting on a taxing mechanism to pay for it, and we got that ball rolling, and the tax was finally passed, and of course now we have the convention center. But it wasn't an easy fight. It didn't happen overnight, and had it not been for the telecom center being located there, we probably would not have had the convention center located there, because it made it more efficient in terms of meeting space. Also, it drove down the cost a little bit, because you didn't have to build on all of these attended meeting rooms.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say to the listening audiences out there, as the first African-American mayor, Mayor Harvey Johnson, the convention center ought to be named after Mayor Johnson. I've said that on this show more than one time. It's past time that we recognize our leadership and the achievements that were made, and we don't have to wait till someone is gone from this earth before we do that. Congressman Thompson, Mayor Harvey Johnson, those individuals ought to have buildings and grounds named after them for the role that they have played in getting us this far. And Mayor, one day I'm certain in the near future, somebody, since we are controlled by all African Americans down there, and Kenny Stokes and names a street after somebody every other day, certainly African Americans can recognize the role that other African Americans played and name that convention center the Mayor Harvey Johnson Convention Center.
Well, I won't vote against it. I appreciate the sentiment. It was a tough haul, and right during the time, and at every turn, but whenever you make a decision, you got some people who are very pleased with that decision, but you also have people who aren't pleased with that decision, and you have to balance that. And so by the time we were trying to get the convention center and get a bond issue and all that, I was approached by a baseball stadium downtown. Yeah. And I said, well, we need to get a convention center. The baseball stadium may come and go, but the convention center is something. Plus, we only need to have this one ball up in there. It's very important that we don't confuse people with two bond issues and all that kind of stuff. Well, I got some calls from folks saying, man, especially people who are baseball fans, that you're making a mistake and it's going to go to Pearl, and it did go to Pearl, and we're pleased to have the stadium there, but we're also pleased to have a very fine meeting space here in the city of Jackson. I just wish that we could get a hotel. The Westin is a great project, great property, but we need something across the street from the convention center. And with things are going and with the pandemic and the virus, I think it gives us time to sort of rethink how we want to plan for the utilization of the convention center in the future.
Right. Mayor, we got to talk about where we are today. And Jackson has taken some serious hits in crime. Our school systems are suffering. Our economy is flat. We seem to be going backwards. Now, I want to say that, I appreciate your leadership in the tough time you came, being the first African American, and white flight began immediately after you became the first African American mayor, and you fought through that. But your administration was scandal free. And, one of the things I say about Barack Obama is that I can't see where he did anything significant enough to impact the economy for black folk. But what he did do was make us so proud. He made us recognize and showed the world that a black man could stand tall, and he could own that office, and he could run that office, and he could do it in a scandal-free manner. We have so much going on today in scandals and corruptions and things of that nature, but you were able to navigate through that 12 years in an impeccable way and not have those kind of issues come up. How did you do that?
Well, I could credit a woman whose name I really don't know. I was running for office in '97, and we went through the typical routine of a candidate, going to the polling places and making sure you catch people before they go into the office, put a push card in their hand and ask for their vote. And this older woman was shuffling to this polling place, and I ran up and I said, "Ma'am, my name's Harvey Johnson, and here's my card, and I wish you'd vote for me." She said, "Baby, you can keep that card. I may not see me a black president, but I'm going to see me a black mayor." and I couldn't let that woman down.
I hear you.
After I became a mayor, that just resonated with me over and over again. It was her and people like her who waited so long to see someone in office to look like them. And it was very important that person who looked like them didn't embarrass them. So that was sort of the way I looked at it.
Mayor, let's shift gears a little bit. Today is election day.
Yes, sir.
And the polls have closed, and there are a lot of people out there now that are hurting. One or two may be celebrating, but a lot of them have found that this is a tough. You used to call this a contact sport, I believe.
I did. It is.
And tell us a little bit about the mayor's race. In front of you there, we have a list of candidates. The mayor incumbent, Anton Lumumba, Patty Patterson, and Kenneth Wilson. I believe Kenneth is your homeboy from Vicksburg.
No. No, Kenneth, I believe, is here in Jackson. He's from Jackson now. Okay. Eddie James.
Eddie James
is my homeboy from Vicksburg. He's running in Ward 4.
Yeah.
But no, Kenneth is here in Jackson, I believe.
Okay.
But I think for one thing, this is probably the fewest candidates I've seen in the Democratic primary for mayor in a long while. I know when I first ran in '97, there were 7 of us in the race, including the incumbent, and I don't think we've had fewer, maybe 1 or 2 in the Democratic primary during the Democratic primaries that I participated in. So this is fairly unique. I think that being an incumbent, Mayor Lumumba has the edge in the race. I think he has the resources, he has the name recognition, and it's kind of hard to unseat an incumbent with those kinds of assets. But on the downside, people are concerned about water. They're concerned about crime. They're concerned about streets. They're concerned about a lot of things. But I think that given his term in office and the way he's performed, I think that he's probably going to come out of this okay. Who knows? I mean, I've seen that Mr. Wilson's on television. I know he has a connection here in the city of Jackson with the fire department. And so that may bode well for him. But, we'll just have to see. I've been at enough elections. I've been on both sides, by the way, on the winning side and the losing side, to know that it's not over until it's over. Voters speak sometimes in different ways than you expect them to speak. But I tell people they're always right, because you can't argue with the vote, and so we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, all right. Well, Ward 2, we have a young lady, Angelique Lee, there.
Yeah. Running solo. It's only two ways to run: scared and unopposed. And so she's not running scared; she's running unopposed. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I was surprised. She and I were close friends before the race began with Sheriff Lewis. And when she called me and asked for my support, I told her that I had developed a relationship over the years with Sheriff Lewis, and I was going to support him. And Tyrone ran a good, hard race, but he came up short.
Right.
And Angelique is now the council person for our ward, and I'm proud to have her in that position, and I've spent a lot of time with her after that. And she's got the right idea. And she's got a work ethic that really speaks volume. Willie Simmons told me during that race, he said, well, one thing you won't do, you won't outwork Angelique Lee.
Yeah.
And so congratulations.
And she brings some interesting credentials. I mean, I'm known as, telling my age, I guess she was a little girl. She went to school with my children. At Holy Family. And you know how people grow up, and, you sort of lose touch. And then I started, I talked with her before doing our race last time, and then I started looking at her credentials, and I said, wow, but is this a little girl who was back? I don't want to be chauvinistic, but you see them in an entirely different light, and I'm too proud to have her represent us, and I think that she's capable of doing a very good job, and she's a go-getter. I didn't realize she ran Willie Simmons' campaign. I didn't realize that she was a lobbyist in the state of Mississippi working with teachers. A lot of things I didn't realize that I think are going to serve her well on the city council, and it has served her well. So
right, like you, I believe she has a master's in political science and public policy.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So she's prepared.
Yeah.
Ward 3, we have to get to the dean himself. Yeah. He says he's unbought and unbossed. You would know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, my friend. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's just anybody, and I know these candidates, but it's tough for anybody to beat Councilman Stokes in Ward 3. It's just tough to do it. He is a consummate retail politician. He knows how to get where the people are and talk to them, meet with them, make sure that they understand that he's working in their best interest. I don't know of anyone else who's been able to do it as well as he has over the years.
Well, Serena is a hard-working young lady, and so is Gwen. Quality candidates.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Joe Frazier. They just came along at the wrong time because Ali was there. And so Joe could never get the recognition that he deserved. Yeah. And anybody that's running in Ward 3 is going to find themselves in a Joe Frazier position.
You're absolutely right. I know Serena, know her well, and she's a great person. And you're right, that's a good analogy, just being, it's just tough the way the councilman has developed the relationship in that ward, and relationships in that ward with the voters. It's very, very difficult to overcome. But again, it's not over until it's over, and
Right.
sometimes voters vote differently than you think they're going to vote. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, we think we got a pretty good idea on 2 and 3 is what's going to happen for sure. But when you get to 4, 5, and 6, Mayor, it starts to get a little tricky. Tell us a little bit about Ward 4.
Well, I mean, it's an open seat. That's one thing. So I mean, that means that there's no incumbent in the race, and so people have to really work hard to get the names out. Name recognition becomes important. It's going to be nip and tuck. I don't know. I can't identify anyone who might come out of that. More than likely, you're going to have a runoff. I don't know whether anybody's going to get 50% of the vote.
Yeah.
I know that there are some good candidates there, and people have done well on trying to make sure that people understand their message and get the word out. But with that many candidates, I'm not sure that you're going to get a 50% plus one.
Well, there's 7 candidates in that race, so
and no incumbent, which means that people are going to have, there's going to be a lot of splits in the vote there.
The 2 people of interest, one, Eddie Fireman James, says that you're standing on his shoulders because he was the first man to run for office, I believe, in 1975.
Oh, yeah? Well, yeah. I know Eddie. Eddie's a great friend of mine, and I can't say enough about him as a person. I mean, he hasn't met a stranger. In fact, Eddie and I used to do a radio show together when I was in office, and he's my homeboy, and he calls me homeboy number 1. He'll call me up, hey, homeboy number 1, how you doing? Out of the blue. And if he thinks I need to be somewhere or to do something, he'll call me up. He'll also try to counsel me to run for office. I say, well, Eddie, you wasted your time. That's a wasted call there.
Well, Eddie decided to do it himself.
Yeah,
man.
so now he decided to do it himself. But again, he has done a lot of work in the community, and who knows? I'm not sure how that's going to translate into votes, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, and then Jackie Amos, a young lady that has probably been in the Democratic Party in some position longer than anybody I know, has certainly got name recognition going into this race. How do you think she'll fare?
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think she has tremendous name recognition within the Democratic Party. I believe she's a committee woman for the Democratic Party. Sits on the Democratic National Committee. And it's not unfortunate, but the reality is that there are more than Democrats voting. That the Democratic Party process and the caucus process, you have people participating, but you don't have as many people participating who are voters in that particular ward. So her challenge is going to be to break out of just those people who are familiar with her and she's familiar with within the party to attract some other votes.
Well, I'll tell you, 7 people in that race, and we'll see later on this evening. We'll know who was in the runoff in that race. We go to Ward 5, and the statesman that's been there, I don't know how long he's been there, but it's been a long, long time. Charles H. Tillman.
It has.
Yeah, I think he's got a crosswalk or something named for him over Mill Street.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was done when he was principal there at Rowan. In fact, I served on a board with him back long years ago in the 80s. He was working in the neighborhood, not working, but was the president of the neighborhood association there when he was principal. But he's been around a long while. He served on the school board. In fact, I appointed him to the school board. I appointed him to the school board, and he's been a long-time educator, now a long-time politician.
Yeah, he's been a long-time politician. Yeah. So there's some quality folk that are giving him a challenge this time. Yeah. Vernon Hartley, I think Vernon was at the city administration back when you were mayor.
Vernon ran the waste program, or worked in the waste program when I was mayor, and I believe that he's working with Keep Jackson Beautiful now. So he has a reach out into the community as well. So Ricky Jones Ricky served on the school board and been a long-time resident of Ward 5. In fact, I think he stays now in the same house that he grew up in.
Wow.
So, there are some quality candidates there, and we'll just see how the voters react.
I believe Ricky is a member of the 100 Black Men.
Ricky is currently president.
Okay.
My presidency ended back in March, and Ricky became president. So he's president of 100 right now.
Wow. So your service with the 100 as president ended in March now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so wow.
But as president, so but I'm going to still work. I've been mentoring 27 years or something like that. Even during one time I was mayor, I mentored at Roy. In fact, you may not remember this, but we mentored together at Roy and when we first started. And you being I guess the journalist or a dead aspiring journalist reminded me that there was no such word as mentee. I said, "Our mentee." He said, "Oh, no." He said, "No, it's no word. Such word is mentee." I said, okay. So it's coming to its own over the years.
Yeah,
so that was 25 years ago.
Yeah, we can create words when we feel like, and they'll catch on. Ward 6, Mayor, incumbent Aaron Banks, president of the city council, Patricia Jackson and Brad Davis running against Aaron. What do you think?
I don't know the other two candidates. I know Aaron, and he's president of the city council. And again, I would think that name recognition is going to be in his favor. I think that being president of the city council is in his favor. I think I saw somewhere where Angelique was doing some campaigning for him and helping him out. So I think those kinds of resources are hard to overcome, but these other two candidates could very well make it happen. Like I say, I don't know them personally, right, but I do know Aaron.
Well, I tell you, it was a tragic situation that we had with the ice storm.
Yes.
But that situation provided an opportunity for Aaron to demonstrate his commitment to his community.
Right.
And he worked tremendously hard and long hours passing out water and doing the kinds of things that I guess public servants are supposed to do in a crisis situation. People didn't have water to flush their commodes. Yeah. It was a real tragic situation. And I said to someone the other day, I think that situation just flushed Aaron across the finish line because you got to look at the way he stood up in that crisis.
And voters look at that, and not only do voters look at it, but those people who he helped. I mean, that it's sort of a snowballing effect, and so I agree with you. I think that he would be head of the course among these candidates. We had a similar situation back in 2010, not as drastic, but same thing with bringing in water for people in tanks for water for people to flush toilets. Kroger donated some bottled water for us. We handed it out at the Metro Center. The legislature had to bring on porta potties to conduct their session back in 2010. People forgot about it.
That's probably a pretty good idea.
Well, yeah, it was. and we asked for some help then, like they asked for help now. They gave us a $6 million loan.
Wow. Well, Mayor, look, we're getting close to the end of the show, and there's so much I want to talk to you about. So I'm going to ask you to come back. There are some things that I really want you to chime in on, and that being Jackson's infrastructure problems, the crime situation in Jackson that we have, the water bill crisis that we currently have. And those are issues that just on the minds and hearts of everyday citizens every day.
Yeah. And
there doesn't seem to be any solutions.
Well, I'd love to come back and talk about it, but people call this a water system crisis. It was a water system challenge, and we have to be up. A crisis is something that has a pretty definite beginning and end. A challenge is something that you have to work on, And I think that the collective we, all levels of government have dropped the ball when it comes to our infrastructure. Pipes under the ground, so we don't think about them. But they're 50, 60, 100 years old, and it's just a matter of time before they let us down like they did during the winter storm. If it were not that, it would be something else. The larger issue is, and we can get to this again, is redistribution of resources. I mean, we really have to have a national program, a program at the national level that directs resources to communities that are needed and to individuals who need those resources. The federal government has backed away from that and gone to privatization and other kinds of mechanisms. And I don't know whether we ever get back to the Great Society programs. I'm not sure that we need to get back to those. But we need to start, the president now has a $2 trillion infrastructure program that some people are questioning whether it's infrastructure or not. But at least it's an effort at the federal level to focus on this problem and to help folk out. How can a state that's the poorest state in the nation not have bad water pipes or sewer lines or streets or whatever, because the resources aren't there to maintain?
Well, what do you say to those who say we just kick the can down the road?
It's not kicking the can down the road when you can't ever pick the can up. You can't pick it up because you don't have the resources to pick it up. Like I said, we spent $200 million on infrastructure, water and sewer improvements over 12 years that I was in office. But it was just a drop in the bucket. Could we afford more? I doubt it. So that's the problem. Between 1997 and 2004, I believe, sewer rates went up some 50% here in the city of Jackson. Water rates went up 100%.
Wow.
How can people who are living in the poorest state of the nation, by the way, in a city that has a poverty level higher than the state of Mississippi's poverty level, how can those citizens afford any more than 100% increase in their water bill? Mm. So it's a problem that I'm glad that we're paying some attention to it. I'm sorry that it had to happen the way it happened with people not being able to have the kind of services they need and deserve. But it's causing us to at least put this discussion on the table. And, I just cringe at this fact that people say, well, it's been neglected all these years. It's not neglect. It has been, in fact, dealt with, but it's been dealt with the resources available. And if we need to have a better system, we need more resources. And that's where the state comes in. That's where the federal government comes in. The state has to do more than give us a $6 million loan. We can get all the money. Well, we can't get all we want, but we can get a great deal of money for our sewer system, as you know, from the state revolving loan fund. Mm-hmm. But that's going to have to be paid back. How is it paid back? Well, if it's not paid back through sales tax, it'll be paid back through rate increases. So, we got a decrease in sales tax collection, I believe, Mayor. Yes, a very significant decrease in sales tax collection. Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, if we don't have the resources and we're seeing a decrease in sales tax collections, that's a trajectory that doesn't speak well.
Well, what we have to do, as I said earlier, we got to rethink the way resources are distributed. If we're going to have a sales tax, we need a regional sales tax. We need a sales tax that's collected in the metropolitan area and redistributed based on population or based on some formula, because we can't have we can't have people as they have, or businesses as they have, run across the Pearl River or run across the county line and set up, and our people still have to go there to spend money, and the sales taxes are collected and spent in those communities. Why can't they be spent regionally?
Wow.
If people are interested in the trunk of this tree surviving, then the branches are going to have to help the trunk survive.
Wow, we're going to leave it right there. That kind of wisdom has got to be shared so that our young politicians know. Our elected officials are very, very young.
Yeah.
And have not experienced the challenges of running an enterprise of this magnitude and the challenges and the trickery that goes on in the legislature and the games that are being played. And so some gray hair needs to be in the room, Mayor. Yeah. And so you're going to have to share more. I know you want to spend time on your farm.
Yes, sir.
And your horses and things of that nature, but the city still requires and needs your guidance.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'll be glad to, when asked, I'll be glad to give it. And this regional sales tax is something that I've talked about for a number of years. It didn't go anywhere, and I don't know when it will ever go anywhere unless there's a rethinking on the part of politicians outside of the city of Jackson. I think they're too busy pointing to the city and saying, well, your tax base is going down, you're losing tax base, you can't have water, you can't manage your sewer system, so we're going to build our own across the river.
Wow.
So, until there's a regional thinking, and we like to talk regional government, we like to talk metropolitan government, but we don't think regionally. And until we start doing that and trying to figure out how we can make Jackson just as well off with the resources that are being spent in the metropolitan area as those communities, those suburbs that are out there that are collecting those taxes from our people. Wow. People would say to me, when are you going to get a movie theater here in the city of Jackson? I said, when you stop going to movie theaters outside the city. That'll happen.
That's pretty good answer. Pretty good answer. Mayor, I know I'm holding you a little bit, but crime, 129 murders last year, and 39 murders so far this year, Mayor. Mayor, black folk are killing black folk.
Yeah.
What's causing that?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I mean, I wish I knew the answer to how to stop it, how to get your arms around it. There are a lot of institutions at play besides government that needs to be involved. The family is one of them. The church is another, or mosque or synagogue or whatever religious institution you're a part of. Education is another, the school system. There are a lot of institutions at play that have resulted, I think, in sort of this breakdown of I hate to say morality because that's sort of a lightning rod. But for someone to pick up a gun and decide that the best way to solve a problem or an issue is to kill someone, then that person's morals are suspect. I mean, not only that that person has the ability to get the weapon, but they have the immoral sense to use it, and that's where we are. And I don't know if there's a simple answer to that. And I've been there before. Luckily, we were able to get murder rates, homicide rates down to the lowest that they've been in decades during my time in office. But that requires more policing. We need more police out there. I know that I'm not a proponent of defunding police. I am a proponent of making sure that we have something for our children to do, and making sure that there are opportunities for families who need services to get those services. But at the same time, we need a police presence here as well. And the study that we did, the Linda Maple studies, called for 42 police officers. Well, we had a larger population then, so we probably don't need that many. When I was in office, we had as many as 511. Mm-hmm. But we do need more officers. The officers we have are probably overworked and underpaid, but that gets back to the population that they're served and the resource base that's there to pay them. Mm-hmm. Other folk outside of the city are in a much better position financially to offer greater salaries to those police officers.
Well, Mayor, we're going to get you back. I want to give you a moment to have any parting words that you want with the audience. We're broadcasting all over the world. Again, we're being seen on Roku TV, on Instagram, on Apple TV, on YouTube, Facebook, WeBelieveDigital.com. That's an African-American-owned network. Go to WeBelieveDigital.com and check out the channel, Socrates Garrett Live. You'll also see other channels there like New Horizon Church, Pastor Stuckey's show, the Richard and Hash show. And we want you to come out and have your own show and your own channels on this studio, on this podcast studio, this broadcast network that we have right here in Jackson, Mississippi. But final words, Mayor?
Well, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be here to chat with you a little bit. There are a lot of things to cover. I hope that the friends I had coming into this program, I still have at the end of this program. I don't know, but we're very pleased to be here. I appreciate the opportunity, as you say, to not necessarily to share the wisdom, but to share the story, because there is a story there that, and some of the things that we could talk about, some of the things that people don't realize are happening, didn't happen, would be very important and very informative to them. Like I said before, government is a black box, and people don't care really what's going in there, how the sausage is made. They just know when they put money in, they want services to come out. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, though, the sausage making is the interesting part. How you have to get around or make compromises or whatever you have to do, negotiations, to make sure that those services come out in a way that's beneficial for those people who most need the services. I believe that sometimes being fair is not necessarily being equal. So you have to make sure that those people who have not had the services previously receive those services, because that's why you're there.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Harvey Johnson, the first African-American mayor in the city of Jackson, a young man that rose to a position of power in our city and led this great city for 12 years. I also believe that you were on the National Mayor's Council, you and Mayor Daley up in Chicago, which was a real powerful mayor back in that day. I think he was a personal friend of yours back then.
Well, I knew Mayor Daley. Mayor Daley didn't have too many personal friends outside of Chicago. But Mayor Webb out of Denver was a personal friend of mine, and I was president of the National Conference of Black Mayors, so I got to meet a lot of big city black mayors and became acquainted with them, and we brought them here in 2002, I guess, for the national convention. So he was here, and the mayor from Columbus, Ohio was here, and the mayor from Houston. So we had a pretty good working organization and leaning on each other, telling war stories, and also trying to figure out how to govern. One of the things that I tell people is that things happen so quickly that it's difficult sometimes to pick up the phone and say, hey, what do I do, or what should I do, or what you would do. You have to have an arsenal of options available to you to almost use at a moment's notice.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Harvey Johnson, until next Tuesday, this is Socrates, Garrett Live, signing off.
Welcome to the Adventurous Podcast. I'm your host, Deidre Perry, and these are my co-hosts. And weekly, we will be coming to you to bring you the latest information in the world of agriculture. We invite you to join us every Saturday from 10 to 10:30. Join us. Come on, take an adventure.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.